Welcome to Team Peri's Step Out of Line podcast, featuring co-hosts Peri and Lori Finkelstein. For our podcast, Peri's voice is represented by a communication device, or rather AI technology, to ensure that all can hear and understand her speech. Together, they explore, meet, and share inspirational stories with guests who have made a positive impact in today's world. This podcast resonates with our hope to make this world a better place one step at a time through love, acceptance, and uplifting conversations.
My whole life is stepped out of line. That's really all that I do every single day. I don't run a 9 to 5. What we do is actually 24/7. We step out of line to do everything that we do to help other people. And many times it means rattling cages. And sometimes people say, oh, don't do something because you're trying to help someone out, and don't rattle cages. And the truth is that people respect you when they know that you're standing up for somebody else. It's never about us. When you're standing up for somebody else, whether it's taking somebody to an airport and having to cut the line because you need to be able to get to that plane quicker, or you need to be able to get to the front of that plane quicker, right? Because you need to take 20 minutes, okay? And you're going to have 300 people waiting because somebody like Peri has to get onto a plane. That's what we do. We step out of line for others, never for ourselves, because when we do it for ourselves, it's selfish. When we do it for others, it's selfless.
You have been instrumental in so many phases of Peri's life that she's been in. You at Camp Simcha, when Peri was a little girl, took her to the hospital once when she needed to come back into Nassau County, Long Island from upstate. I remember when the ambulance came into the hospital, and that's when we first met you, you were like, no problem, we got this. Peri, I'm going to be here, and we're going to take you back the next day. And you were very calm, nothing bothered you, and you just had a special way about you that I noticed right away. The way that you were relating to Peri, but also the way that you were able to calm down crazy parents who were like, oh my God, why is my kid home from camp? Were you always like this? Like as a kid, were you like this as well, where you could just take charge and make everybody feel comfortable and then do what had to be done? Or did this develop later on in your life?
The answer is absolutely not. Nothing. I was a regular kid growing up. I will tell you that when I was 7 years old, my dad became one of the first Hatzalah members in Lakewood, which means he was a volunteer EMT. And that's when I knew what I wanted to do. I think it took many years, and I believe it's still developing, of things that we're able to do for others. But the person who became my mentor was the one who brought me to Camp Simcha. And I'm sure you know him. His name was Shlomo Zakheim. Shlomo Zakheim was one who actually taught me the concept of, if it's difficult, we do it, and if it's impossible, we're just going to try harder. And he gave me tremendous opportunities. And one thing that he always taught me was, it's very easy to say no. Peri could have called me up and said, hey, can you be on my podcast? And everybody could find 100 excuses why they're busy and there's so many things going on. And anything that we do in life, but he said, especially when it comes for chesed, good deeds, it's very important to do whatever you can to say yes, even if it means coming out of your comfort zone. And even if it means trying to create time that you may not even believe that you have, because we always have time. To say, if you want to get something done, find somebody who's busy. But that's something that I believe that has developed over time, and it continues to do so. And I still push myself to say yes as much as I can, not just for chesed, but even in speaking. If you go back 11 years ago, and Peri would have asked me if I can speak on her podcast, my answer would have been no, because I don't public speak. That was my answer. And my son's bar mitzvah, which was about 11 years ago, I had somebody write my speech for me. And I had so much alcohol inside me that I assure you that I wouldn't have been able to drive for a long time. And right after that, I said, something needs to change. I need to be able to express myself. I need to be able to communicate. And I went and I took a public speaking course. And I made a deal with myself and a promise that if anyone asks me to speak anywhere, as long as they give me the time to prepare, I would speak anywhere that somebody asked me on any platform. So I've spoken on a TEDx platform. I've spoken on various occasions and various opportunities. I'm actually presenting next week at the National Business Aviation Association conference. I've spoken at numerous yeshivas and schools and camps, any opportunity, because I had to draw myself out of my comfort zone. So even though I took a course, it was maybe 10 classes. It was about telling us how to put ourselves out there. So if it's something that helps other people, no matter what, whoever asks me, I always say yes.
You obviously knew the value of the TEDx talk, because if it wasn't for you, we would never have made it to Peri's TEDx talk. She was supposed to fly American Airlines. The night before, they canceled and said, sorry, your wheelchair, we can't accommodate you. And you and your staff were incredible in getting us a flight and then getting us on the plane in less than 12 hours. If it wasn't for you, Peri never would have gone on that stage and never would have had any success that has followed her because of that TED Talk and of her getting her story out there. Peri never would be on the TEDx stage, even though she had a fear of public speaking as well. She still stepped out of line and shared her entire life story to date, and it was the hardest thing she's ever done.
My TEDx speech was also one of the toughest things I've ever done, because as much as you prepare, and as much as you think you're ready to get onto that stage, it is very overwhelming and it is very challenging. And Peri, I commend you because you do that every day. You always get out onto the public stage. And I'm sure you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone many more times, and even more times than even tell your mom about. It is not easy getting out there. And I will tell you that I've been on many stages, and it is still not comfortable. You need to push yourself. And Peri, what you do with the message that you portray, that anybody can really do anything, because if anybody thinks that they can't, they just have to look at you, of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and sharing your message and sharing your inspiration with the world. That is a message that I internalize myself, and I thank you for that, Peri. And Mom.
Do you get immediate feedback when you speak at schools? What are these kids saying?
I think everybody who public speaks, if they don't get immediate feedback, then it was a dud. It's almost uncomfortable when you get the feedback, because you're really not sure. When you get up there, you get into your zone and you have your speech somehow prepared. But I think we always end up going off on a tangent when we come up with something. So we're not reading off a paper. We just have a couple of bullet points that we're trying to work off of. And I think it's a message that we're trying to get out to people. And that is to inspire people. Because for us to just get up and talk about our story, that's okay, but it doesn't internalize a message. You have to focus and find what you want to share with the world, and that's what we try to do. And the positive feedback is what really gets us to project ourselves forward to our next mission and to our next trip. You get a response immediately. You can detect it within the crowd. People will come over and say, you inspired me. In any message that we do, whether it's in public speaking or it could be any messages, it could be a WhatsApp chat. When you share a message with somebody and they respond back to you, that's what gives us the fuel to be able to project that message even further.
Why don't you tell us a little bit what you do? Literally, you are saving many lives.
In simple terms, I always tell people I'm a private jet broker and I'm also a paramedic. I fly with patients around the world. I try to give back. So I started my aviation career with Shlomo Zakheim, who was the first time I ever went into a private jet, the first time I went into a helicopter. My first time I was actually going to Camp Simcha. 2010. Shlomo Zakheim, we had a few businesses together, a couple of pharmacies, and I was sitting in his office one day, and Shlomo says, what are you doing today? And it was something that I learned from him, from somebody who was very, very busy, and he loved to help people. You remember Shlomo? And he said, what are you doing today? And my answer, I realized very early on, was that if Shlomo asked me what I'm doing, if I want to have opportunities, I need to say one word. You know what that word was? Nothing. I had to say I'm doing nothing, because then opportunities opened up from all sides. And I was sitting in his office one day and he said, what are you doing the rest of the day? And I said, nothing. And he said, would you like to go to Camp Simcha? I said, sure. I heard of it. I was never there before. And the next thing I know, we're in his car. We're driving down out of Brooklyn, and we get onto the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, and we're on the West Side Highway, and we pull up, and there's a helicopter. And I never had the time to sit back and internalize, am I scared of helicopters? Am I not scared of helicopters? And next thing I know, we're on a helicopter. And 38 minutes later, we land in Camp Simcha. And he shows me the brand new infirmary, what he was building right then and there. And he shows me around and he's getting everything set up. And then he asked me, what are you doing this summer? And what did I say?
Nothing.
Nothing. And he said, how would you like to be a paramedic in Camp Simcha this summer? And I said, of course. And from there, it kept on going over and over many times. He used to call me up, what are you doing today? My answer was always nothing. And I got opportunities to fly with him all over the world. And many times he had his own private jet. And he would say, what am I doing? My answer was nothing. The next thing I know, I'm sitting at some airport with my medical equipment and my cardiac monitor. And I would get onto a plane and I was flying with people all over the place because he would provide the aircraft. And myself and other paramedics would fly around all over the country, getting people to specialty hospitals and specialty centers and places they would never have the ability to go to because they didn't have the resources to do it. So he had a plane strictly to be able to help other people. A private jet is what he did. I said myself and other paramedics. And that's what he taught me, that to be able to find, as busy as we may be, find the time to make for others. And unfortunately, Steve got sick in 2012. He had a 9/11 cancer. I met him the first time was at 9/11. I was a first responder there, as was he. I came after him because I had to come in from New Jersey, but he provided many ambulances there. And unfortunately, lost 14 of his personnel, passed away that day. And Shlomo stayed there greater than 30 days, helping them search to be able to find these people. And he ended up getting a 9/11 cancer, and unfortunately, he passed away. And he actually didn't die from the cancer. He died from the damage that was caused to his lungs by the chemotherapy. And before he passed, it was about 2 weeks before, he passed away on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, in September of 2013. And I remember he called me and his wife, Faggy, sent me a text. She said, Steve wants to speak to you. And I said, okay, I'm on my way. I went straight to Manhattan. I went into his room, and he was sitting on his bed, and he was connected to oxygen, and he says, take my jet. And I said, all right, where am I going? That was pretty standard, take my jet. He goes, no, go take my jet. And I wanted to go change the world. I never dreamed for 1 second that Steve was going to pass. He was the strongest and toughest guy I ever met in my life. Steve could do anything. And 2 weeks later, he passed away. And I didn't take his jet. It was too overwhelming to go take somebody's jet. But shortly after that, in 2014, I opened up my company in his memory. We ended up rebranding it 2 years later. But my mission in life, as I tell people every single day, is that we're here to help people. Although our corporate side makes money, our organ side makes money, we started as an air ambulance company, and from there we evolved into organ transplants. So we fly organ transplant teams all over the country. As we speak right now, we have 4 trips going on right now in Texas, in Florida, North Carolina, and New Jersey that are going to save lives, all from his dream, from his 3 words of take my jet. Nobody has any idea how long we're going to live. We have no idea when we're going to step off this bridge called life. But the only thing that we leave is the imprint that we leave on this world. We don't take any cars with us, no planes, no helicopters, nothing. We can't even take a pair of socks with us. It's only the imprint of what we're able to do, what we're able to give back. So we do air ambulance, we fly with people all over. That's why when people like you and Peri and your husband call us to say we need help, we're going to mobilize a team immediately to be able to do that. And we do it for anybody that we can. We look for opportunities to say yes, and we look for opportunities to give back. So our core business is corporate executive charter and organ transplants. It's really one and the same. It's really arranging or coordinating for private jets and helicopters to fly hearts, lungs, livers, kidneys, pancreas, and anything else that somebody may need to be able to sustain life. Steve passed away because he needed a lung. He wasn't even alive long enough to be able to get a lung. He couldn't even get onto the list. He introduced me to somebody named Yochi. He was a young man in Camp Simcha also who needed a lung. I flew with him all over the country, 11 different transplant centers, and everybody said no. And finally, when I had an opportunity to fly a lung transplant team that was starting, I said, you guys are starting a lung transplant team. It was Montefiore Medical Center in New York City. And I said, I have a young friend who needs a lung. And they said, bring him in. And the next day, we were at the hospital, and they accepted him. And unfortunately, he didn't make it long enough. He survived for 2 years. And I speak to his mom all the time. And his mom says that she has no doubt that he lived for 2 years because he believed that one day he was going to get a lung, as did we. It was very challenging because he had a very complicated blood type. And he was a prior transplant years before for a liver and a kidney. So he was very small. So he was only really eligible to get a child's lung, and he was an adult when he became sick, needing the lung. So they said perhaps a small female would be able to fit. But he believed until the last moment that he was going to get it. He went to many centers in Pittsburgh and in Cleveland and in Baltimore and North Carolina. He went to many places, and we'd walk out and he would say, "So that's it? Is that it? My life is over. I can't do anything." And we said, "We're going to keep on going until we can find that transplant center that's going to accept you." Although he didn't get it, he believed. That's something that we have to share with people, is the belief that we're going to turn over everything. And you're right. There's nothing to talk about. It is easier for somebody to be an advocate for somebody else. It's very difficult for say, "I need help. What can you do for me?" It is. And that's why we have to be able to even recognize when somebody needs assistance and say, "I'm going to be their advocate."
You have many children, I've heard. You are teaching them by example. Are any children looking to follow in your footsteps?
The aviation side, it's so stressful and so difficult that I almost hope that they won't get into the business, because it's a 24/7 business. I say it as a euphemism sometimes when I say that I haven't slept since 2014 when Steve passed away. But the truth is, my phone is by my pillow every single night. And everywhere I go, I need to make sure that I have good phone service and I have good Wi-Fi and all. But I actually have a daughter. Her name is Leia. She's in the academy now to become a firefighter. That's what she's doing. That's her way of giving back. My children are all in some sense of giving back. None of them are in aviation yet. My grandchildren actually love firefighters that have helmets and they love aviation, but who knows? I've taken them all on helicopters and all on planes. Everybody has to find something that speaks to them.
Did you ever imagine as a kid that this was going to be your life?
Not for 1 second. I did believe that I was going to be a paramedic, and I did say that's all I wanted to do. That's absolutely true. But no, as far as aviation, until I met Steve Zackham, I didn't believe that would ever happen. I knew nothing about aviation till the first time he put me on a helicopter going to Camp Simcha. And then I realized how fascinating it is. And if you think about it, a mile of roadway, right, takes you 1 mile, right? But a mile of runway takes you anywhere.
So you do a lot for other people. What do you do for yourself?
Every year I spend a week in Camp Simcha, which is exciting. I spend another about 12 days a year. I go on a medical birthright mission to Israel. I try not to go on a vacation that I do nothing. It's very hard for me to sit around, whether it's ADD or ADHD. I can't sit. So I can't go on vacation to Mexico and just lay down at the beach and let the days go by. I like to do something. So I like to incorporate whatever I do as a vacation as giving back. So I look at my 1 week in Camp Simcha as giving back. I look at the other days that I go to Camp Simcha. We do the helicopter trips for the children there. We fly about 500 kids every year up and down in the helicopters. Peri's been on them. So that to me is a day of vacation, even though it's a full day of work. My 12 days that I go to other birthright missions, to me is a vacation, even though we're working from 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. As far as for myself, I'll tell you over the years, I've taken on a couple of hobbies. I'm a scuba diver. I play music, so I play drums and I play keyboard. I learn guitar and I play saxophone. I love music. I love everything about music. Music speaks to the soul and it speaks to the heart. And I'm sure every time you hear certain songs, it brings you back immediately. It can bring you back 15 years as to where you were when you heard that song the first time.
What's your walkout song?
I Think You Raise Me Up, because I think that talks to everybody. It's your friend, it's your mentor, it's your family. We hope to raise other people up, but we know there are people who raise us up ourselves, and I think that would be my song.
Yeah.
Peri, what inspires you? What makes you get up every day and say, "I want to share the message with the world"? Because you inspire everybody, but what inspires you?
I personally don't think of myself as inspiring, and I don't think I ever will. I just want to keep doing things that I'm passionate about and make me happy. I want to create. I want to write. I want to do my work. I like to keep busy. I'm very focused, but I enjoy working on many different projects at the same time. So no, I don't try to inspire people. I think that through the work that I do, my hope is that eventually it impacts someone.
Peri wakes up every day, and when we get her up and she's uncuffed and she's talking, she's like, "Okay, what are your goals today? What are you doing?" We're both very goal-oriented, and we have to have a plan.
I feel like when you check off something on a list, It gives you so much serotonin. You feel so accomplished afterwards. That to me is everything, and is a feeling that I crave. And I accomplish all of these things for me, not to inspire. These are just things that I want to get done. Whether it's sending an email or editing a podcast, these goals keep me feeling in control and keep moving me forward. Sometimes I don't accomplish everything on my list, and that is okay. This is just how I operate.
I think some people are built a certain way, regardless of her medical condition or physical disability. She would have been like this no matter what. She's just built this way. I just think she's fueled by the fact that she knows that her time is not endless, as with all of us, but I think Peri probably feels it more than others, and she has so much that she wants to accomplish and get done.
There's 1,440 minutes in a day. You can't take it and say, I'm going to move 800 to tomorrow. I'm going to move another 400 to the weekend, right? You can't bank your time. Every night at midnight, it resets itself. That's a lesson that Peri shares with others, is that we have no idea how much time we have, and we're going to capitalize and appreciate every moment that we have. And the fact that you don't realize that you're inspiring people says so much about you, because your goal is to get your projects done. But in reality, you are inspiring and you're changing the world, Peri. And I'm privileged to call you a friend. One thing about aviation is you realize that there are no limits to what you can do if you set your mind to something. The Wright brothers decided one day they're going to build a plane and people are going to fly. If they would only come back now and see what their dream became, who would think that these 787s that are taking off with 300-400 people, or transporters or fighter jets that are going because they had a dream. That's all it was a dream that we want to fly 100 feet. That's all we want to do is 100 feet. And now people fly across the world. And Peri, you share that same message of you got to start somewhere, and don't worry if it's overwhelming, because if you set your mind to it, you go ahead and do it. And I can't even imagine how beautiful you're making this world on things that you just say, hey, you know what? It's very small for me, but it's huge. As I say, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And that's what you do, Peri.